In this video, we are going to be dealing with the elements of the paragraph argument. Now, let me preface this by saying that ETS, the people who write the GRE, don't actually have a specific section called the paragraph argument. They don't even call this type of question we have here the paragraph argument. Indeed, paragraph argument is simply subsumed or is part of the reading comprehension section. So ETS just considers this another reading comprehension question, but it is definitely not. So what is it then? Well, a paragraph argument is a paragraph, hence the name, and in that paragraph it's making an argument, and that part I highlighted in red there, or squigglied in red, is the paragraph argument. Now, each paragraph argument will be followed by a question. Which of the following, if true, weakens the argument above? So in this specific case, what I've done is I've dissected this paragraph. So you may want to take a quick second and just read this, be familiar with what it says, but I'm not necessarily going to spend the entire time reading that paragraph, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dissect it, and I'm going to tell you what are the elements of these paragraph arguments. What are they made up of? They're made up of premises and the conclusion. Of course, your job is to find that conclusion. But first, let's start with the premises. What are premises? Well, premises are facts. And the facts in this paragraph are that over the last few years, Malanda has suffered a drought, and as a result has experienced major losses in crops. That is given as a fact in the paragraph. We have to assume that is true. What else is a fact? Since the drought began, the amount of Malanda imports has increased. Fact number 2. Now, the next part of the paragraph argument, some would say the most important part, is the conclusion. The conclusion is the tying together of facts. And it's not really that difficult to find it, because it usually, in fact, almost always comes at the end after the facts have been stated. So what's tricky about these isn't identifying the premise and identifying the conclusion, but it's identifying the gap. So you can see here's the conclusion stated. It's word for word, but the gap is something that the conclusion does not take into account. Moreover, it's something that's not even printed. It's this missing piece, and that's what makes it difficult to find. So, what is the gap? What are we talking about here? Well, X causes Y. That's what this stands for. You're going to wonder, wait, why is Chris doing algebra? But this isn't algebra, but this is formal logic. Something is causing something else to happen. In the prompt that we just went through, it assumes something. It assumes that the increase of imports is caused by the drought. So drought is X. And the drought causes the number of imports in Malandia to go up. That is the conclusion. So the drought has caused the imports to go up. Now, the gap is, well, wait a second. What if something else caused the imports to go up? What if there is another cause? And therefore, the argument makes this leap, and it's jumping over a chasm, and that's why I call it the gap. But there could definitely be something else. And that something else, we're going to jump through there, but that something else is called the Z. The Z is this other factor that we need to identify. Something else caused the increase in imports. What could it be? Well, this is one possibility. A quickly rising middle class has increased the demand for consumer electronics produced outside Malanda. What this means is that people are suddenly buying all these cool laptop computers from outside Malanda, and those computers are part of the imports, and so imports are going up because of that, not because of the drought. So Z is a possible answer or explanation that shows that the drought is not causing the imports to go up. Another possibility could be this one. Malanda's economic well-being rests on imports from many different countries, or rather different industries, not just crops. So we could see that, aha, it's importing all this other stuff not related to food and drought conditions. Now, the thing about these questions is they're not going to ask you, oh, can you please state what could be a possibility? That would be really hard to do. That's what the test writers do. They come up with these answers, but you have to be able to identify that Z. So what the actual question will look like is this. Aha, here it is. The paragraph argument in full. Now you'll notice that that's the exact same as the very first slide, but what every question comes with, of course, are the answer choices, A through E. Every paragraph argument will have A through E. Your job is to, of course, read this question, anticipate the gap, thinking, well, wait a second, they're assuming that the drought is causing the imports to increase. Maybe it's something else. That's all you really have to do once you've identified the gap. Then you read the question, which of the following, if true, weakens the argument above. And so now we want to identify, well, which one points to this Z? Let's read A. This is the first significant drought Melanda has had in the last 100 years. Does this relate to this gap in the argument about something else possibly causing the imports to go up? And the answer is no, it is irrelevant, so we get rid of it. B, Melanda's economic well-being rests on imports from many different industries, not just crops. And you're going to say, hey, we just saw that was the Z, and that's the answer. And yes, that is the answer. But make sure you understand the logic why that's the answer. Of course, that's the key to all of these paragraph argument questions. But let's just get rid of these other guys. The neighboring country of Zambia has witnessed a decrease in exports since the drought began. You're going to notice a lot of these are irrelevant. They want you to start thinking maybe, oh, imports and exports, maybe it is relevant. But you're comparing a different country. It has nothing to do with Melanda, so we get rid of C. D, the amount of imported food that the average Melandan consumes has increased since the beginning of the drought. So again, they bring in words from the prompt. That's what these tricky wrong answers do. And you think, ooh, imported food, drought. But it's talking about what? It's saying, well, it's actually increased. It is bringing in more food. And you always want to remember, what's the question asking for? To weaken it. So we can get rid of D. E, the drought in Melanda is expected to intensify in the coming years. It doesn't really deal with imports at all, so we can get rid of E as well. Now, the key with these questions, of course, is really to pick up on the gap and to be able to read through these. What's going to change, though, is not the paragraph itself, but the questions. This weaken type of question is just one. And in the following videos, you're going to see other variants of questions that follow the paragraph.